What did the fourth media availability for Utah spring football tell us about this Utah football team? We're talking about that and more on today's Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen every single day. We're available on all platforms, including YouTube. If this is your first time listening to our show, make sure you guys like, subscribe, support our channel. You guys recently helped us reach 1,000 subscribers. We can't thank you enough for that, and our road to continue that journey is well underway. So appreciate you guys' support of the show. My name is JT Wistrcill, former intern inside the University of Utah Athletic Department. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. On today's show, we got to see 20 minutes of the final 20 minutes of Utah spring football practice. So I was able to attend this time. As you guys know, in the past, I've just been reacting to the news, but I was there. So I'm going to give you my thoughts on both the offense and defensive side of the ball. Then we'll close a little bit more on some of the conversations I had with the players and talk a little bit more about the fact that Utah is officially getting a baseball stadium. Yesterday's show was all about the potential to get one. Now they are officially get one. But as I mentioned, let's start with what we saw during practice. So got to see the last final 20 minutes of practice. And just as the case is every time, we see the ones and twos going at it pretty much the whole time. So the one thing I will say, actually, I'll start with something that was said after practice. This was when Coach Witt was talking to the media. And he did say that, look, Brandon Rose is the guy he said before, like has the edge, right? So Brandon Rose took, gosh, I believe it was all the reps of the ones. I could be, you guys, one of the other media members can correct me if I'm wrong. It felt like Brandon Rose took all the reps of the ones. But so Bryson Barnes was kind of the number two guy right now in that situation. And as Coach Witt said, Nate dealing with an injury a little bit right now, so he's not really able to factor into this battle at the moment. So focusing on Bryson Barnes, though, he did say that Barnes was nipping at his heels. I've said in the past, I feel like that if this game started, if the Florida game was tomorrow, I feel like Bryson would be the guy. Look, and I could be wrong in that regard. It could maybe be that they do feel like the best guy for that right now is Brandon. And based on those kind of comments, that's definitely how they make it seem overall. But either way, I think it will be interesting to kind of see how the rest of this competition plays out, because it does feel like at the moment Brandon Rose has the slight edge. And let's start with Brandon Rose. I thought Brandon Rose looked pretty good today. I think he was pretty sharp overall. The one thing I will say that's always tough in these kind of scrimmages and whenever you go is they always want the quarterbacks to get rid of the ball. So even when there's kind of pressure in his face or anything like that, like they kind of just gotta they ease up. They let him go. Like they're back there, but they just stop because it's like, okay, we just want to let him make a throw, make a play. So I do feel like, and we'll talk more about how the offensive line performed in a second. But I felt like what we saw, Brandon Rose looked good. He hit Frankie Jacobson for a nice touchdown one time. Mekhi Bernard caught a nice touchdown on a bootleg. That was good to see. The bootleg was giving the defense a lot of issues today. There was a lot of short touchdowns down there because of that. One to Bernard. I want to say Jalen Glover might have had one, but either way, Jalen Glover also scored a couple times. He ran one in too. But yeah, I thought Brandon Rose looked good. And I thought he looked fine. I mean, look, after what we heard kind of coming out of the scrimmage that he wasn't the sharpest, I also felt like he didn't. I'm trying to, like I said, this is what's hard when you're just there live watching everything. And I have tons of notes over here right now. And I tried to organize them everything. But as I try to remember back to it, I don't remember ever once going, now that was a great throw. Were there a couple really good throws by Brandon Rose? Yes, I think he had a couple of very nice throws. Was there ever a throw I was like, whoa? No, I didn't see that at all today. And look, I will say, as far as I can remember, I don't remember Devon Vele catching a pass out there. So Utah was without their top. We know they're without their top pass catching receiver, obviously without their pass catching tight end in no Yasmin. So, no Keithy. I don't know if Yasmin got any run today. I can't remember if he caught a ball, but either way. So it's a little bit more challenging, I'll say, in that regard. But either way, I thought Brandon Rose looked fine. Bryson Barnes, same thing. I thought both of them might have been sacked a couple times. I will say Brandon's best throw he made, he was on the roll, on the move one time, threw a nice pass. The coverage was decent, and the catch was made. And I think you've heard other people report on, if you guys read some of the stuff over on Utes Zone, like, yes, Utah did move the ball on offense a little bit better. And I think that's fair. Although once again, I feel like a couple of those plays would have ended in sacks. So that's where it's always tough. But either way, nice to see Rose make some nice passes. Caldara caught one. Jacobson grabbed one. Noah Benny had a nice low catch too. Those were the main receivers that stood out in that regard. I thought Jalen Glover looked really good today, made a couple of nice cuts just to kind of maximize, like, even if it only went for 4 yards, it's the kind of run where it maybe it would have only gone for 1 yard last year if Jalen doesn't make those quick, decisive decisions. So it was good to see him out there today. I thought he ran well. I thought the offensive line did a pretty good job. I thought there was a lot of back and forth. I thought the offensive line would win some, and I thought the defensive line would win. So it was fun to see. Satawa, I thought was pretty good at run blocking. Did get beaten pass pro a couple times. We did see a lot of like both kind of Satawa was at left tackle some, but also there was a lot of Falcon on the left side too. So it does feel like that is still an ongoing battle in general. I originally just seemed like that Satawa was kind of the locked in guy at a left tackle, and that's no longer the case. You can tell that is still a competition up for grabs overall, that it is still a battle between, it seems like it's just a two-man race between Falcon and Satawa. A lot of time till the season starts. No one really thought Satawa would be this team's starting right tackle last year, so we'll watch and see how that ends up playing out too. One thing that was fun to see was both Brandon and Bryson. The quarterback run game was a little bit more used today than it had been in the past. Results were mixed. I thought the defensive line would have been there to stop them for a gain of 2 yards maybe, but still fun to see Utah kind of try something new, basically. One thing that was really impressive is I believe it was the first game, the first possession of, it was goal line offense for the two offensive line. And the very first one, they just opened. I think it was not Chris Reed. I can't remember who exactly the running back was now off the top of my head. But anyway, it was the running back didn't matter on the play. I could have scored on the play because the hole was massive that Alex Harrison and a couple of the second team interior offensive line did. I mean, the Red Sea was parted. They collected the linebackers. They split both the defensive tackles on the second team too. It was a masterful job done by them. So that was really good. I thought the two offense overall looked pretty good. And just in general, as I said, I thought the offenses had a lot of positive plays today because it was fun seeing Jalen Glover score. It was fun to see, like I mentioned, those bootlegs where they were able to kind of slip the running backs just to make the defense lose track of them and score those two. And yeah, like I said, I thought the offense had a solid day. It's going to be hard to evaluate this offense. I believe this offense's top 3 players this year, which, as I say that out loud, like, let's just say this: 3 of this group's top 5 players are going to be Cam Rising, Brant Keithy, and of course Devon Vele. And I will add a caveat. And the reason I stopped there is because I think Jaquindon Jackson has a chance to be the third best guy. Obviously, we know the top 2 will be Rising and Keithy. So, but those guys aren't out there. So that's where it's always hard when it comes to spring ball. But look, if Brandon Rose was the guy to start, as I said, right now, I don't know if he's ready for that game, but that's the nice thing, is we don't have to worry about that until August. And I think by the time that rolls around, I think we'll be feeling ready for him too, because this is a great opportunity for him to learn, grow. And that sounds like what he's done a lot of too. Coach Witt sounds encouraged about the progress his quarterbacks have made. So I feel like we should be as well too. So like I said, overall, a pretty solid day from the offense in general. I thought the O-line won some, lost some. It was a good battle back and forth, fun to watch. Iron sharpened iron today. And of course, when we talk about iron sharpening iron, there's 2 sides to that. So he dove into the offense, a lot of positives, like I said, but the defense, a lot of positives too. We're going to touch on the Utah defense and how they looked in the spring media availability today in a moment. But first, I want to talk to you guys about our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. Grand slams, no hitters, and double plays are back, and there's no better place to get in on the MLB action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's because right now, new customers can step up to the plate with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon, sign up, place your first bet, and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. How about the start the Rays have gotten off to? If you guys want to bet on their action, all the other great action going on in Major League Baseball, you could do Aaron Judge to pick up right where he left off with home runs, a pitcher to go over and strikeouts, or build a same game parlay with your favorite matchup of the day. So don't miss your chance to get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. FanDuel, an official partner of Major League Baseball. All right, so we talked about the offense. Let's take a little gander at the defense now. First, the very first play that I can remember seeing, and maybe there was 1 or 2 before, was Brandon Rose threw a check down on a little short comeback route to Mikey Matthews. Matthews caught it. By the way, Mikey Matthews is, like I said, very quick, very fast, all those things. Man, does he look like he's a freshman out there just in terms of his size, because, we see all these guys huddle up, and you get like Falcon next to Mikey Matthews. And look, hey, size isn't everything on the field. We know how Britton Covey was able to dominate despite his size too. But it is just one of those things where it's like, whoa, that's what makes football such a great game is you have players of all different sizes working together that could do these amazing things. But either way, so Mikey caught a little pass, and Mikey, very quick, very shifty. I mentioned Britton Covey. Witt has already given a little, he saw, like said, he already saw shades or whatever of Britton Covey in Mikey Matthews' game. And one of the things that was the very first play was, like I said, threw that check down over there, and Sione Vaki was all over it. Sione, just the way he came on late last season, Colorado game, obviously Pac-12 championship game, made a couple stops in the Rose Bowl. He's just one of those guys that I feel like is just going to make plays. I've talked about before, just like you can look at a guy and be like, he's got it. And what is it? Like, there's that ability to step up in the moment, make a play, make a stop. Some guys are made for the moments, some aren't. I have no doubts that Sione Vaki isn't one of those guys, and it was a really nice tackle to see him make in space. It's remind me of some of those ones. The one he made against USC, where they said the guy's knee was originally not down when it clearly was. Then Sione Vaki made that stop. But it was a really nice stop by Sione Vaki. The other guy who really stood out to me, and I should say, like Sony popped there, and then it's hard for safeties to stand out because so much, especially when you run the ball so much. I thought the coverage was outstanding by the safeties. I'll add that, but like when you run the ball, like by the time they get down there in those fits, that's when they're just kind of doing like the fake thing, like you're not really wrapping up or doing anything like that in general. So it's hard for those safeties to stand out beyond that. Justin Medlock, I know we've been talking about him and talking about him and talking about him, but you know why that is? Because honestly, if I had to pick a winner of spring ball, I would pick Justin Medlock. He looks, at least right now, he looks incredible. He was explosive. He shoots right through those gaps. He's a strong tackler. He's always around the ball, always making plays, always making tackles. Because like I said, we still don't know what the whole Leavani Demuni situation is going to look like. We know how secure Lander and Karene's spots are, but man, I feel like if there's an injury or if there's an opportunity, I want to see the last 2 weeks of spring ball. I'm getting very close to wanting to predict that Justin Medlock is going to have a game where he leads this team in tackles because he is just going to step in and be ready to go right away. As I said, with just his ability to take on blockers, shed them, get right through, shoot those gaps, make those tackles for loss. He was always around the ball, and it was great to see him breaking in for tackles for the loss or limiting some of those runs to just a couple of yardage, which could have been a lot more if he doesn't make the tackle or the play there. Another guy who really stood out, Junior Tafuna, looks almost unstoppable on the inside some plays. Yes, every once in a while you'll get a Johnny Maea, Jaron Kump, Keaton Bills, Satawa, or Satawa sometimes, I guess. But Michael Mokofisi, sure, every once in a while they'll make a good play and stop him and get a good block, take him out of the equation. But for the most part, Junior always he seems to be breaking through, making stops, making things happen. So I was very impressed by Junior just throughout spring ball, especially today. As I said, I just felt like he was a real force and a game wrecker. And I feel like this is going to be another huge year for Junior. I know I was very high on him on a pass rusher when I first took over this show last year. I think he's just going to continue to be an absolute monster in the run game is where he'll mainly make his money overall. I'll just say I think he's going to be an elite run stopper for the Utes all season. They really unlocked him as a three tech last year, using him next to Samote Pepa. And I don't think I think he's going to get off to an even better start than he did last year. I think he'll be making plays against Florida in the front seven. He's gotten bigger, stronger, faster, explosive. And as I said, it just was like watching a lesser Aaron Donald, I'll say, I thought out there today with the number of times I was like, boom, look how quickly Junior shed his guy. And then he's making a tackle or making a play. So loved what I saw from Junior Tafuna too. Lander Barton made some nice plays as well. Good job filling holes, stepping up. We expect him to have a huge year, of course. And like I said, I thought he looked very strong out there. So was really encouraged by what I saw from him. Miles Battle came up one time and run support, did a good job. And look, some guys just look like they belong on a football field, right? That's Miles Battle on the outside. He's got the length, the speed, the athleticism. And I think it's nice that he's a very physical corner too, who's willing to come down, fly in, and make the hit. I think of look, in terms of who were Utah's three corners last year. So Maya Vaughn, JT Broughton, Clark Phillips. Those were the main three guys, right? This year, if you look at it, what should be the main three is you swap like Battle or you swap Phillips for Battle more than likely, right? Well, when you're talking about that, I do think there's one thing that Battle is going to have more of than Clark Phillips last year, and I do think that's tackles. I think there were more than a few occasions last year where Clark Phillips missed some tackles or For whatever reason, just wasn't able to make that kind of a play in terms of tackling. And I think that's not going to be an issue with Miles Battle. He's not going to be Clark Phillips on the outside. He's not going to be locking it down. Now he will make some nice plays. He's going to have a huge, he's going to break up a huge pass on third down and Rice Eccles, and he's going to hit the X, or just not the X, but just the incompletion sign. Either way, he's going to do that at some point this season. But I think he's going to be very strong in run support for this Utah team, which, as I mentioned, was something they didn't have from their top corner last year. We'll see how Zamaya and JT factor into that this year, but I have no doubt that Miles Battle is going to be good and up for the task. Also, the defensive line continues to look strong. Logan Fano, excuse me, I butcher over that for a second. He made a couple plays off the edge I was encouraged by. I already talked about Junior Jonah Ellis. Man, he had a couple where I swear, like the snap, like right off the ball, I was like, boom, I was Jonah Ellis already back there, which like I said, I think it speaks to some of like Jonah Ellis good, Falcon and Satawa, like, come on, guys, as well. And I talked to Satawa, as I said earlier, about like, hey, just that iron sharpening iron. He's like, man, we got some really good defensive linemen. That's what Satawa was telling me earlier today. And it's true. When you're just out there watching, seeing these guys, you guys will get to see it come the spring game. Like, this is going to be, I think this group is going to be one of the strengths of this team, this Utah D line. Connor O'Toole made a couple nice plays around the edge too. There was good penetration by the D line and some of the goal line plays, even the second string D line. As I mentioned, like sometimes they got pushed back, but there were other times like there was no running lanes open. Everyone was controlling their gaps, holding up their one-on-one situations, and then breaking through, making sure to collect. They'll have a guy, they'll be engaged with an offensive line with one hand, and they'll disengage the other to wrap up the running back right before they come through. So continue to be really encouraged by this defensive line, the progress they've made overall. So yeah, that's what we saw day 2 of, excuse me, it was my second day of making up there to watch it live just because of a couple things and stuff I've had going on. I wasn't able to make it up the past 2 weeks. So it was great to be back up there, see it all for myself, see the progress. So everyone is kind of moving, doing along. You can tell guys are starting to get beat up now. I mean, these have not been light practices. They've been going at it hard. You can tell the last 20 minutes when they're there. And yeah, these guys are working their tails off. So you can tell they're a little tired, I think, but I'm excited to get to see them one more last time next week. And then we are less than 2 weeks away from the spring game, which seems crazy in general, but it's going to be fun to see how it all works out. But either way, a great day of work by the Utah football team. A lot of progress made on both sides of the ball, and a lot to be really encouraged about. Speaking of things to be encouraged about, one of the things that was really exciting about my time today up at the University of Utah was I got to talk to Jalen Glover and Satawa Laumea. Let's start with my talk with Jalen for an interview for a piece I'll be writing for Ute Zone eventually. With Jalen, I thought you could just tell like he just talked about how much more comfortable he feels like he'd be more of a leader this time around, be a guy who can step up in that aspect. How it feels like he's just seeing things, processing things quicker. So I think Jalen's in for a monster season, as we talked about before. And he's just the guy who's about all the right things. Jalen, I was one of his first interviews last year when I was in the department. I was writing a get to know you piece, and just talking to him, I could just tell, like, once again, like he's one of the guys that has all the makeups and says all the right things of someone who, like, he's very goal oriented, all the kind of stuff. Like a lot of what we saw in Clark Phillips in terms of he's coming in like, I'm focused, I got this plan, I'm going to execute it, and I'm going to go on to the next step. That's the vibe you got from Jalen. Big coach's son's vibes, all those things, just like about everything a coach would want him to be. So yeah, I have no doubts that Jalen's not going to have a big second year coming up here for the Utes. And it was, like I said, fun to watch him out there today a little bit too, because I thought he looked nice, explosive, and decisive, which I thought something that a couple of instances last year didn't look as decisive. So I'm excited to see what he's going to do. Talking with Satawa. Satawa is always great. Satawa's got a great personality too. Whenever we do the interviews, we have like our phones that we hold up for the players and they interview. He's like, can I talk? I hold it and talk right into the mic. I was like, yeah, sure. Makes my job easier. So he's got a great personality, great guy. Talked about how, how him and Keaton kind of become like the co-leaders of the line, trying to lead the group, the progress we're making. Talks about how comfortable he feels way more comfortable at tackle now after making that swap over. And look, that was my biggest question coming into spring ball. I've talked about it a lot, right? That I wasn't sure if Satawa Laumea was going to be the left tackle for this team. And look, I probably won't be able to answer that for sure until we see that in the first game. I won't feel great about it, but I feel a lot better about it after talking to him today and just hearing how good he feels with it, how comfortable everything. So Was very encouraged talking with him overall, but always great getting up there, talking with those guys. And yeah, like it's Jalen and Satawa, just total all class pro guys that this is why this Utah football team has been so great. They recruit extremely talented players who are also very high character guys. So it was great chatting with them both today. Another thing that was great to hear is that the Utah baseball team is going to officially have a new home. We talked about the potential of them building the new on-campus field on Guardsman Way, and it got approved, and it could be open as early as 2025. If you guys want to view the 3D rendering, you can head over to the University of Utah Athletic website. Josh Furlong's Twitter also has it as well, of ksl.com, Josh Furlong. So lots of places for you guys to view it. As we talked about on yesterday's show, this is something that really excites me. I just think there's something special about having your home, your venue, defend your house, and it's truly your house, your logo on the field. I think there's a special thing and a lot of pride that comes with that. So I think it's really exciting. They are still going to have a great view. If you guys haven't been over to the Guardsman Way yet, drive by it where the current practice field is, and you can see that it's still going to be an outstanding view. Look, the way that Smith's ballpark lines up, I don't know if it'll be as good as that one used to be, but either way, I said I think it'll be nice to have their own home field, and I think it's great if they could get it up and running by 2025 too, because that's I believe that is by I believe 2024 is the Bees last season. So I think it would be good to have it up and ready to go by 2025. So hopefully they're able to get all that done. They've just started the fundraising for it. They want 35 million. So if you guys are interested in donating, you can head over to the university website and check all that great stuff out. So yeah, either way, really exciting that this Utah baseball team is going to be getting their own stadium, and I think it'll help with recruiting and everything. Just having your own home, your own place, I think it's going to be great, and I'm really excited to check it out and eventually check a game out up there. So that'll be exciting and interesting to see. Also, before we get out of here really quick, I wanted to give a shout out. I was recently traveling and I ran into Clarence Davidson. I was supposed to shout him out last week, but thank you, Clarence. It was very fun running into Clarence at the airport. Great guy, a lot of fun. Like I said, chatting with him. And this is just a real quick thing. If you guys ever see me anywhere, like if I'm ever, like I said, just about and about, or we ever airport, wherever, even if it looks like I'm not in the mood or something like that, which I mean, you guys listen to me for however long, whatever week, like, you know me, I'm, even if I might look like I'm not, like I'm always in the mood and always having a good time. Like talking, meeting, and interacting with you guys makes my day/week. Like I can't thank you guys enough, as I've told you before, for supporting this show, for allowing me to talk about the school and the teams that I love at the University of Utah. So anytime you guys see me, don't ever think like, oh, am I going over to bother him? You trust me when I say you are doing the exact opposite of bothering him. Being me, you are actually making my day. So like I said, never feel like I don't know if I want to go up to him. So if you ever see me out in public, make sure you guys run over, say hi really quick. Would love to chat and get to know you a little bit more, because anything I can do to thank you guys in person for once again supporting this show, I will absolutely do that. So once again, shout out to Clarence. It was a lot of fun meeting up and seeing him. That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Utes. But make sure you guys come back tomorrow, as Sammy Moore is going to be joining me of Ute Zone 2, preview the Utah Gymnastics National Championship meets they got coming up. They got to play in the first one, their first little session, and if they are in the top two teams of that session, they will advance to the national championship, which is where the top four teams compete, because you have 8 teams overall traveling down. 2 will advance from the 2 sessions each, so 4 overall. So we'll have Sammy on to preview that. So make sure you guys join us on tomorrow's Locked On Utes.